Hello, alrighty. The attendee list seems to have leveled off. Once again, my name is Ken Kibler, Director of Training and Client Business Support for eTruckBiz. I want to thank everybody for joining us today as we follow up with some of the same information on the trends as well as some news in the industry. And then we're going to follow up on some steps that you need to take with this new announcement between FedEx and Amazon. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A. And until further, with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff Lozak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ken. And as always, we need to remind you that eTruckBiz is not endorsed, sponsored, approved, or otherwise affiliated with FedEx Corporation. eTruckBiz is the home of the business support system where we offer BudgetIQ that lets us help you find where the money's getting away in your operation, Performance IQ with our team of folks that help you find and fix operational issues that are costing you money, and Admin IQ that lets our admin teams take away your non-revenue producing tasks so you can focus on the revenue producing ones. And that's going to be of tremendous importance coming up, not too distant future. And because things are going to get real complicated and margins are going to get squeezed and all kinds of other things are going to happen for a limited time, if you schedule a business support system consultation session with Becca, you'll get a standard operating budget. And that a standard operating budget is one of the things we can do to show you what FedEx thinks your expenses ought to be. Everybody likes to see that. And then, of course, a business evaluation and an actual expense plan. So you can base your operating goals off your planned expenses so you can get to your planned owner's benefit or profit levels. You can go to the email address there at the bottom of the screen. Hopefully you can see it, eTruckBiz.com/whatisthebss. And right there is a form that you can fill out to schedule a session with Becca. Also, a bunch of you have hit this page now. If you want to see some of the new things and you want to see what Timekeeper IQ is all about, you can go to iq.etruckbiz.com. You can see the latest and greatest eTruckBiz innovation. And again, one more time, to see any of these things or get any other questions answered, whatever, you can go or you can talk to Becca Manders. You can contact Becca at eTruckBiz.com. Okay, as we always do, we take a look at the volume from last week. And actually, last week, what should have been a decent week. You had Mother's Day in there. If you look at the pickup stops, they dropped just below the trend line, which is not really cool. But the disturbing thing is the packages really dropped off the planet. So Mother's Day should have been a lot stronger than that, but now we're down close to maybe even past last year's levels. So that's actually not too cool. Over on the delivery side, same thing, just not as pronounced, but it's the same thing, dropping under the trend line. It's moved down, should have been up, but now we're back around last year's levels. But here's the real thing, productivity. So routes dispatched, yeah, went down, but oof, a 5.64% hit to the gut for productivity.
Drop below that 100 stops. I think previous week we're at 103. As the volume drops, please manage your dispatches.
It's going to be very expensive out there. I know there's a lot of people out there training folks and everything, and there's a lot of transition going on, and okay, but you can't let that productivity get out of hand. So, a little bit of news. I think it was yesterday that FedEx announced the leadership team for the independent FedEx Freight Company once it separates from the broader FedEx organization. This is an important strategic move to allow FedEx Freight to operate more independently and focus on its specific business needs. The new leadership team brings deep experience in the freight and logistics industry, positioning FedEx Freight for success as a standalone company. So our man, Mr. Smith, is going over to the new company. Be interesting to see with who, and if they replace him. All right, so now last week's news, along with Network 2.0, is really going to change things for contractors, especially on the settlement side of the house. Now, we're seeing all kinds of things with optimized CSA, optimized Network 2.0 CSA negotiations and all kinds of different things and analyses. But if the incompatibles, the ICs come into the operation like they should over the next couple, 3-4 weeks, there's nothing saying that you can't request a renegotiation, right? So Carrie, our negotiation expert, is here, and she's going to take us through some tips on renegotiations.
Thank you. Yes, I know renegotiation, you can always press that button in your My Ground Biz account, but contractors are hesitant to do. The feeling out there is I'm either not granted one or discouraged from doing this for one reason or the other. So we're here to tell you that it's time to pay attention to your current contract, take a look at what's going on and see if you do need a renegotiation and how to request one successfully. It's very important, like Jeff said, with the integration of Network 2.0, how that evolves, and now this incompatibles with the Amazon partnership, which will mean more large packages. You know, your capacity is going to need to be increased. So CSPs face unprecedented operational changes. So next we're going to explore how to successfully request a renegotiation. So why does a renegotiation matter and why now? Here's some operational differences. I will reiterate this, Network 2.0 and Amazon partnership, they're transforming the delivery expectations of customers, including time definites and incompatible. So you're going to have to adjust to this. The service area evolution. CSA characteristics are changing because of service demands, and that's one area that is accepted for a reason to renegotiate your contract is CSA characteristic changes. The rising costs. Servicing the operational changes will cause fuel, labor, and operational expenses to increase. Not to mention, you may have to get another truck with that new driver that you're going to hire. So, you know, it's going to be a substantial expense, or could be a substantial expense to the contractor, and you have to be paid accordingly. Operating margin protection. Contract terms must align with new business realities, and chances are your current contract does not do this. So what are some common reasons that a renegotiation is denied? Okay, that's the feeling out there is I'm never going to get my request. So let's understand what that means. Understanding the denial trends helps to prepare a stronger case when approaching FedEx for a contract renegotiation. So what is one reason? Insufficient financial data. They ask you to fill out a request for financial information. And Ken, I think they're calling it something else now. Do you recall the new term? And they change it all the time.
Yeah, in different districts, different things. It's either an exchange of information or an expense cost sheet.
Okay.
That's the only two that I've heard, but like I said, different district, different ones. So
yes, and if you have seen that template, it's a little daunting in itself. It asks for a lot operational information, but it's very important that you do take the time to fill that out, because they will look at this, and this is going to be the backbone for your renegotiation. So any detail is very important in this matter. The timing issues, requests made too soon after previous contract negotiations or 5 months prior to a Network 2.0 integration. So if you have a current contract, and let's say it's only a 33-week contract, which I have seen many of lately, that means you are going to renegotiate within that 33 weeks to a Network 2.0 integration. So your total CSA definition could change, or it could stay the same. Regardless, you are going to be getting a new contract pretty soon. In that case, you would not be granted a renegotiation, so to speak. However, also in that same matter of thinking, if you were just stood up to a contract, they're going to tell you, why don't you wait a little bit and get some weeks under your belt. So when I help a contractor negotiate, I tell them that exact thing. Hey, start tracking your information, start tracking your settlement data, and you're going to be able to tell within 2 to 3 weeks whether that contract is working for you or not. If it's not working, then start working on your request for information data so that you can request a renegotiation within that first month of, or after that first month that you stand up to the contract. Poor current on-road hour activity. This is a big one. It's an easy denial when you are not utilizing the capacity that you have because your employees are not working an 8-hour day. FedEx, almost 100% of the time, they use that as the excuse. Hey, your on-road driver hours are 5 or 6 or even 6.5. So they're going to tell you better utilize the people you have. And the answer would be no, that they're not going to grant you a renegotiation. Package or stop volume stagnation. Most work area volumes continue to grow, but in some cases, stagnant volume will usually lead to a denied renegotiation request. So if you just have it in your mind that you need more money, that this contract isn't paying you enough, yet your volumes are consistent with the FedEx assumption stop and package data that was used to make those offers, you are not going to be granted a renegotiation request, okay? So it has to be some type of change in your volume, whether it be an increase or a decrease of about 10%. It may be a little less than that now, but you have to make sure that it is a material difference. Jeff, did you have anything to add to that, or is that good?
Oh, that's a perfect way of describing that.
Okay. All right. So moving on, the biggest reason for renegotiation denials are resource utilization challenges. And we always get pushback on this, and we understand. The problem is it's still going to have to be addressed. So the challenge is FedEx will reject the requests when they spot underutilized vehicles or on-road hours. Settlement engineers will scrutinize the resource efficiency before approving changes. So, when they engineer the definition of your CSA for negotiation purposes, they already have it worked out how many trucks you're going to need and et cetera. And if you are not meeting, if you have more trucks than what they feel your CSA requires, then you're definitely not going to be granted a renegotiation. And on that same respect, if you are underutilizing the capacity you already have, then you are not going to be granted a renegotiation. Winning strategy. Work with your FRO to design routes that maximize vehicle capacity. Use the eTruckBiz tools to identify and fix wasted capacity. And Bob, if you're on here, I know he is our FRO, DRO expert, so he will be glad to help you if you are a customer of ours, identify and fix your wasted capacity. So this is an important area also that denial of a renegotiation would fall under.
Hey, Carrie, can I add to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, in the Performance IQ program, we have a weekly report now that basically reviews your dispatch capacity. So you can see, and we rate that dispatch capacity based on stops per hour performance, which would give us our total stop capacity and hours utilization. And in that report, we base it off of 8 hours. Unless you have a driver load, then we would base it off of 6.5. But on a weekly basis, our Performance IQ customers are seeing what their capacity utilization is so that they can use that report to help them
Maximize.
justify. So it was tough for me to spit out there.
Thanks. I know, some big words today. So here are some specific resource utilization issues. Stops per on-road hour standard. FedEx Settlement Engineering assumes at least an 8-hour on-road per daily dispatch. Most all renegotiation requests are denied when the on-road resources are below standard, and I briefly touched on that previously. So you have to make sure that it starts with the driver culture change, whether you need to take a look at your current driver, your employees, or if they're not willing to meet the standards of FedEx, then you have something to think about there. But FedEx is going to definitely tell you that they need to be on the road 8 hours. Excess dispatches. If you are exceeding the engineered anticipated number of dispatches, then it's tougher to be granted a renegotiation. It's funny because you're being penalized for doing good or doing what is expected. On the other hand, FedEx has a number of dispatches related to your CSA definition, okay? You may argue with them and you may be able to prove your case if their estimated number of dispatches is incorrect. And I've seen this a lot during negotiating. We are able to prove in some cases that an extra dispatch is needed and so forth. You would need to have your ammunition ready if you are going to fight what the dispatches that FedEx thinks you should be at versus what you're running is different. Stops per dispatch. Recent pre-network 2.0 optimization package are revealing not only the number of vehicles to use, but also the stop-in packages that are expected per dispatch. So this is a gray area also. They do deliver this wonderful packet with these numbers in them that are supposed to be a guide as to what you're going to expect with your optimized 2.0 CSA. The problem is we have nothing at that point to verify or disprove their numbers. So when they tell you that this is the number of vehicles that you're going to need, and this is the stop and packages that are expected, we need to do some research. We do a lot of deep dive into what these actual resources that are needing for this optimization is, and if you are above, below, whatever, what they're suggesting, then there's going to be pushback, okay? So that's another area that is right now a gray area, especially if you are on an optimized CSA definition. Financial data's role in the renegotiation. So this is really important. Providing financial data helps more than it hurts. I know, again, you don't like to share your financial information, you know, it's none of FedEx's business and so forth. But if you respond promptly to their information request, which in as much detail as you can, and focus on your expenses. Just start thinking about everything. Of course, you need them for your year-end P&Ls and that, but you know, what they want, they have their idea of what things cost, and it may be very different depending on the area you are in the country and what type of trucks you have and what, you know, how much maintenance is and so forth. So if you track all your expenses, you document every operational and general and administrative expense, then you're going to have an easy time filling out that request for financial information, and you'll be able to convey to FedEx why you need a renegotiation based off of the detail that you're providing them. Use eTruckBiz's BudgetIQ program. So if we leverage our eTruckBiz's tools and we can track and organize all your financial data, it'll be a breeze filling out that report for FedEx when you want to renegotiate, because we will have it all done for you, and it'll be all nice and neat and tidy in a report that you can more or less just input into their request, and it's all set. There would be no gray area in that. So the last is maintain contractor context financial records. Keep expense data in a way that makes sense in this business model. I guess for the most part, most of the contractors, all your expenses are going to be pretty much the same. It is across the board as far as CSAs go. So they want to make sure that when they're looking at this, that everyone's expenses make sense. They're mostly operating expenses, repairs, maintenance, truck expenses, and then of course your payroll. So anything else to add to that one, Jeff?
Yeah, so if you can make it look like you know what you're doing, the FedEx, so people say things cost so much now and I'm not making any money and whatever, and it's probably true, but you got to be able to present a case that makes some sort of sense. You can't just say, I spend a lot of money on fuel. How much money? A lot. How much is a lot? More than I did last year. That doesn't mean anything. You've got to be able to show the negotiator, settlement engineer, and whoever you got to show, you got to say, look, here's it has to make sense to them.
Thank you. Moving on. So documenting contracted service area changes. So there's new delivery areas. You document any added zip codes, any new neighborhoods that would come into your CSA definition from the time that you stood up to the contract you're on to the time you're requesting a renegotiation. Package characteristics, track changes in size, weight, handling requirements. We are all working on a way for you to do this as far as our eTruckBiz tools go. So it'll make it easier to track the large or the incompatibles. Volume increases, record or be able to demonstrate significant changes in delivery volume. That's important too. I mentioned the 10% rule. Any increase or decrease in 10% volume, you probably need to renegotiate your contract, or at least try to. Delivery time changes, note shifts in expected delivery windows, okay? So these are all areas that you have to take a look at your business and see if any of them or all of them apply to you. And if so, then you definitely need to seriously consider a contract renegotiation. Gather observation ride data to support your request. And this is one that also goes along the wayside. Contractors do not do this as often as they should to back up the claims that they need a renegotiation and are utilizing all their assets or so you conduct regular observation rides. Did you want to go through this, Ken?
I would love to. Yes.
Okay.
Conduct regular observation rides, schedule them with your BCs, with the drivers, and which work areas perform well financially, which ones don't. I would concentrate definitely on those work areas that are not making money, but at the same time, still look at the ones that do make money, because are you fully maximizing those work areas? A lot of times drivers will hit a glass ceiling, be it 100 stops, 125 stops, and you know what? They've got more time, but they're very comfortable doing 125 stops. So it is always good to do these observation rides. The things that you will see out there will amaze you, disappoint you, and some of them might be very good, the interaction with the drivers and the customers. But if you don't get out on the road, you don't see it. And then collect the detailed data, the time it takes at the stops. The biggest fallacy I think FedEx has with their settlement system is basing it on packages per square mile rather than stops per square mile. Needless to say, we all know that residential stops should take about 30 to 45 seconds. A business stop, they give about 3 minutes. There's a lot of business stops that take more than 3 minutes. So how can you justify that business stop took more than 3 minutes? You get out, you do an observation ride, and you collect the data. Okay, and then analyze the findings. The form that we use will ask your manager or yourself to identify time lost or time gained at a delivery. Different things that might cause time lost that wouldn't be normal would be couldn't find somebody to sign for a package, or maybe this is the regular bathroom stop for the driver, which got to have them. And if there's a place there that they utilize, that's fine. But you still would want to take that out of a standard observation ride. So you got to analyze those findings, and then you got to figure out what this route can really do. Because as Carrie said earlier, FedEx knows how many dispatches you have per week, and they figure that out basically off of how many stops per hour your drivers can do and multiply it by 8.3. I wish it was more complicated than that, but that's what they do. Jeff, anything to
Right.
add? No.
I was gonna say something. What I was gonna say is, so he might be on here and he might not, but this happens all the time. But there happened to be somebody contacted us last week and said, "Hey, I'm going broke." And the thing is, folks, so when we ask them, "Do you know what's going on in your trucks?" The answer is, "Yes, I do." But that's not what's going on. What the reason you're having yeah, there's a lot of reasons, but the big one is right here. Is what are the drivers doing in your trucks? What are they doing? Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing, or are they doing everything but? And you'll find out if you follow them, or God forbid, do an ob ride. Just ask yourself, when's the last time you or your BC did a real ob ride? I'll bet you the answer is not very many, or maybe never. That's the reason we got troubles. One of the biggest reasons we have troubles, right?
That observation, it builds a relationship with the driver, and it could help the driver. They might be doing something wrong that they were taught wrong, and they think they're doing it right. And just little time savings will make their life easier and might reduce their walking.
Right. And to wrap it up, I just want to add that you got to take control of your FedEx contract renegotiation. It's a critical step for FedEx contractors to adapt to the industry changes, protects your profitability, maintains sustainability. So if you address the common reasons for denial, tracking your key metrics and engaging with tools like our eTruckBiz BudgetIQ program, you can strengthen your case, you can increase the chances of success in asking for your renegotiation. So that's important. Thank you.
Good job. All right. Mr.
Hey, real quick, Jeff. And when you do those observation rides, use that min-max that's in the FRO and keep those routes there. Because in that way, you got, if the driver comes in and they know it's going to be an 8-hour day every day, are they going to be happy if they were working 6? No, not necessarily, but it's consistency. They want consistency. They don't want to work 8 hours one day and 5.5 the other. They love the 5.5, but keep it consistent for them. That way they come in, they know, all right, I got an 8-hour day. But use those min-maxes in there. They can really help you.
Okay. There you go, Mr. Ken.
Yep, we'll go with the chat questions first. And it says, my CSA has 3 routes that are primarily urban and 2 routes that are rural, and then 1 route that is partial city, partial country, and 1 route that handles bulk that won't fit on normal routes. That said, my stops per dispatch is skewed. I can be sure FedEx would understand, since the route might dispatch 85 stops and my local city route dispatches at 165. You still will have a budgeted number of dispatches. So you have a budgeted number of stops each week, and basically they'll figure out what they want your revenue per dispatch to be. They're never going to use that number, but they're going to tell you your budgeted dispatch. And if you utilize us with your negotiation, we can help you and show you that. But all of them are skewed by a bulk truck or by the in-town route doing 165. And you say, how can I cut out a route? You can't. The ones you would cut out would actually, you would disperse the urban stops, because you still got to cover those rural areas as well. And so I've got some pickups there. Okay. As we talked in the past, do I have different kind of dispatches? Maybe I have a part-time person when I cut out a delivery route. Maybe I have a part-time person come in and covers pickups in that urban area. So I've gone from paying 8 hours a day down to 4 hours. Anything you want to add to that, Bob or Jeff?
Yeah, hey, a lot of times I see when you've got the urban and then you've got the rural guys are always working 8.5, 9 hours, and the urban are usually 5 or 6. If that's the way it is, you need to take your urban and you got to push them out further. They've got to do some rural to help that out, help even out that time so everyone's not working so long. And 2, if they are working 5 or 6, how far are you from the terminal? Can they, if they have to, double trip? Is that possible? If they're not that far away, double trip. And what do the vans look like on the inside? Are they full down through the middle? Can you get rid of that bulk route? Is it possible? And maybe not on Mondays because of, over the weekend you're not running as many businesses, but what about the rest of the days of the week? I guess think of it this way too. If you got 10 contractors in a building and everyone's running two more routes than what they need, that's 20 extra routes.
It's a belt line.
Building. Yep. How many more people does it take? How many more package handlers does it take FedEx to supply those extra 20 vans? That's extra cost for them too. So cut out where you can. Get the vans full, put your bulk down the middle, go run your bulk. Then you'll have empty aisleways, but follow the route path of the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. And if your FRO isn't set up right, let's get it set up right. That way they don't have to go back to the 8,000s. They don't have to go back to the 6,000s. And then are they pulling everything forward too?
It's worth why we had Carrie on this presentation today. They will take more time as your percentage of incompatibles increases, and that'll show on your contract. You want to make sure that's brought up as part of the changes to your area. Okay.
Yes.
And speechless.
I think he's froze up.
Frozen in time.
Connection problem. Yes, yes.
I'm so bad with that question, boy.
My whole Zoom thing just went down. Maybe it was your connection, Jeff. Let's see here. What's going on?
Space aliens. There's Merv.
Jeff, can you hear me?
Yes.
I got that notice that my internet, we had some storms go through here on Friday, and it's playing havoc, apparently. But yes, they're going to pay more because you have more fuel miles involved. And driving 45 minutes, I'm pretty sure most people can drive a truck 65 miles per hour. In town, not everybody can deliver 155 stops, or they don't have the desire, or they don't understand the methods enough to handle those 145 stops. Some stem, I think FedEx always pays a little bit better once again, because they're trying to have you net the same thing. I hope that makes sense. Anything to add, Jeff or Carrie, to that?
One of the things is we can sit here and, again, I don't want to, we can complain what we want, but we're getting dealt the cards we're getting dealt. And we got to play the cards we're dealt. I mean, we could try to change them. We'd ask for redeal, do-over. That's great. That's what we're trying to talk about today. But you got to be able to try to do something with what you got.
Excellent. Another good question. What is the expected range for repair and maintenance costs as a percent of revenue for rural routes? How can this data be used to help create a strong case for renegotiations and more money added to the contract? For example, I'm driving up to a quarter mile on unpaved driveways with trees smacking and damaging the trucks. Engineers like to say that's figured out in your contract. They do love that. Stop. No, it isn't. How do we fight that? Carrie, you want that one, or I can handle it? I'll go ahead. Maintenance costs, I believe, are 8%. If I'm wrong on that.
You ask Seneca.
Yeah,
Hey,
Seneca, is it right around
Yep.
8%?
It is and again, each contract is a little different, but I would say on an average, it's about 8%. And then when you're looking at an expense as a percent of revenue, so if your rural routes are bringing in more revenue as a percentage, that maintenance expense will be higher. It should stay about the same percentage. However, the actual expense will be higher because the revenue is higher. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if
So
you're,
yeah.
what Seneca's saying is, say, if you have $5 or $5 revenue per stop and they're budgeting at 8%, basically they're gonna say 40 cents per stop would be spent on maintenance. Where if you had $3.50 times 0.08, then only 28 cents per stop would be budgeted for maintenance. Is that the best way to explain it?
That's exactly it. That's what it is.
Excellent. Thank you, Seneca. And I hope that answers your question there, David. If you talked about gravel roads and dirt roads. One thing I would always put in my unique characteristics is the number of miles you drive on those gravel and dirt roads, because not only does it add wear and tear to the vehicle, it also lowers, they might see it as a country road thinking you're going 45 miles per hour where you can't go over 15 miles per hour. So therefore, your stops per hour should be reduced. And we've seen people awarded extra dispatches for that. Okay, I hope that answers your question, David. So I have also presented a strong case in the past and quickly denied, so it sounds good in theory. In practice, I challenge the viability of your premise. I can tell you we've had success and we've seen strong cases turned down. And we can tell you, keep knocking on the door. We've seen people fight for it 3 years in a row and finally get it the fourth year. So please don't give up. With FedEx Freight separating into separate companies, any word on what will happen with the packages weighing over 150 pounds? Jeff, anything on that one?
I don't think I want to answer that.
Yeah, I think if it's on your truck now, it's going to stay on your truck. I don't think that they're bad packages. We know they exist, and all you can do is prepare for them. Has FedEx said anything regarding the Amazon large package and how they will affect efficiency? FedEx gets paid on cube, weight, and distance. We get paid on stops and packages with inaccurate large package mix kicker. There seems to be an extreme disconnect here. My stops per package per truck are going down due to increased cube size.
That's exactly why we're having this meeting today. If you can track this, show them what's happening. You'd say they should know what's happening. Yeah, they should know, but unless you become a squeaky wheel, you may not get any grease. But when you do, that's exactly what we're trying to tell you here. As all these things come on, as the time definites come on, this is going to increase your costs. Renegotiations are absolutely in line here. There's nothing wrong with it. These, as you just said, they're bigger, they take more time, they're heavier, everything. That's exactly right. And you should request renegotiations.
Another one. My senior manager said the Amazon ICs are already in the network. You all have suggested it'll most likely start the new fiscal year. Is there some clarity on that? These are not in the network right now.
Correct.
There's plenty of other incompatibles in the network right now in large packages, no doubt about it, but these are not. This is an additional 10%. UPS even released that they're walking away from 12% of their revenue. Guess what? That's Amazon stuff that's coming onto your trucks. So your business is going to change. I don't know why the senior manager said that. They are not already in the network. Okay, over to the Q&A. We got 8 here. FedEx has 2 P&D routes that have been available off and on at least 10 times in the last 5 years. Do you have any insight as to why that might be? The routes are rural and is really a lot of miles. Wouldn't they a lot more because of the length of the routes? Wouldn't they pay a lot more because of the routes? They do pay more, as we've already talked about, because of the length of the routes. Why do they continually turn over? Maybe they take a contractor or a new person on from BudgetIQ that wasn't a contractor who didn't know what they were getting into, and they accept a contract that might not be a viable contract. And once again, some people don't have the numbers to show it's not a viable contract. But yeah, those bad pennies are out there waiting to be turned up every time. Anything to add to that, Jeff?
No, that's right. That's right.
Okay. The DSW shows both on-road hours and on-duty hours, with the latter including morning loading duties as well as driving stem miles. Am I correct? The on-duty hours are benchmarked at 8 hours and not the on-road hours? No, on-road hours at 8.33. Correct, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So,
Hey, and that's why too, you can get to the 410 routes, 4 10-hour day routes, then you're going to be better off. Plus, it's another benefit that maybe you're giving your drivers that nobody else is. Another reason why drivers want to come work for you. And especially if you can get it so it rotates. You can't always do it, but get it so it rotates where every 5 or 6 weeks they get a 3 or 4 day weekend.
Hey, Bob.
Something to that fact.
Not everybody knows what you mean by 410s or 410 routes. Can you tell us what that means?
Yeah, yep. It's working 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. Then you got your 8.5 on the road, hour and a half in the building, hour and a quarter in the morning, quarter or 15 minutes at night, and it works out perfect. Plus, it's a better work-life balance for your drivers.
and that truck's delivering longer, therefore it's generating more revenue.
Yep.
Okay. This one we already answered for the maintenance. How do we find out what our expected estimated dispatches per week should be outside of negotiating period? The station should be able to give you that information. They do have it. Okay, so make sure you do talk with the station. They will tell you what that number is. Richard, I know we've helped you negotiate contracts. I could probably figure that out as well for you. There is a grand canyon of gap between what we feel is data-rich report and how engineers respond to that data. Not going to disagree, but if you have numbers, and they can't deny the numbers if they are real. What they can deny is the emotion put into numbers and the emotion put into that. The engineers are just that. And I've got a son that's one. I'm glad he's not here. They are cold-blooded engineers. That's the way they're supposed to be. Okay.
And that's why the observation rides are so important, critical, especially when you got those out in the county, the long lane. You can show how long it's taken from stop A to B to C to double Z.
So how wide is the Grand Canyon? How deep is the Grand Canyon? How long does it take to get to the bottom of the Grand Canyon? If you can give them numbers and justify what you need, they have to give it to you. Or it's time to.
And give them the right numbers. Sometimes I've seen somebody take a picture, about 108 pictures of sugar sand roads. You don't need 108 pictures of sugar sand roads. They're going to look at 2 of them. You can give too much. Do I have an observation right form? Yes, I do. Santiago, I will email you that form. If anybody else would like it, please respond. Okay. When should a driver start dispatch? FedEx wants 8 hours, but what about the hour plus before they leave? Should they log in only when they walk into the truck? They are on duty when they walk into that truck. And then when the minute they leave the building, they should be on road. You would think with all the technology and the scanner, it can tell you if you're within 100 feet of a stop. They should be able to tell you when you're within 100 feet of leaving the building or that you have left the building within 100. But that's the way the driver technically is on duty the minute they start to do work inside that truck. How to get your BCs to get the routes at 10 hours. We have tried the past couple of years unsuccessfully for a handful of drivers. Is it a DRO issue? Go ahead.
Maybe is it a truck size issue? Do you not have the right truck in there? What does UPS run in that same area? That's always a good standard to go by, because if they're running a P1000 or P1200 in that area, then it could run, because they're worried about safety as well. And again, it's just about observation rides, about safety rides, following up, following your drivers. Are they doing the right things? And no driver wants to do a bad job. No driver goes into work and says, I'm going to do a bad job today. But if they don't know they're doing a bad job, or if they don't know, they're going to assume they're doing a good job. So we've got to just have conversations. And again, it's observation rides. And they're going to tell you when you're out there that, hey, it never goes like this. You should go with me every day. I say, I just might if we don't continue to pull in at 20 stops an hour. But no, it just have the conversations, get on the rides. And as far as the rides, I would be in the AO. I would set up the observation ride schedule with your BC. Let them know this is when you need to be on the trucks. If you let them do it, they've got 1,000 different things that they would rather be doing than an observation ride, for the most part.
No doubt about it. And that's a follow-up question. Also, the DSW, to be accurate, do drivers need to log into scanner immediately when they get in the terminal? They should log into that scanner once they are starting to do work in that truck. And quite frankly, I'm surprised the DOT hasn't come down on this, because there's many times where drivers are in the building for 2-3 hours and not reporting that as on duty time. And that you don't want to be sitting on the stand having to answer, did you know your driver was here 2 hours before he reported on duty? Won't be a pleasant situation for you. Okay. It's had something what needs to be done for engineers to wake up and realize the real world. Bob just said it. Observation rides. If you could submit observation rides and you say, Mr. or Mrs. Engineer, come on out. Here's my observation rides. Let's see yours. Most of them will take that challenge and they'll want to get out and see the observation rides. And that we've had them come out to our customers and do observation rides. So data, real live accurate data with observation rides, and I'll be sending that out. And maybe we can schedule one of these sessions on how you complete each section of the observation. Jeff, does that sound like a decent idea?
Yeah. Or we can pick up where we left off and automating it, put it in the optics app.
Yeah, that would be great. It looks like I've got 4 people, Santiago, Chad, David, and Kenny to send the observation ride form to. All right. Great questions today, and definitely appreciate that. Yeah, as Carrie said, this is a critical time for your operation, and knowing your numbers is critical. Having a place to see those numbers is critical, and then submitting them in the proper format is critical. But it's definitely important. So I got a couple more names I got to write down here, Jeff, for the form. So make sure I get them.
I wonder if you guys ask real nice. I don't know if she's on here, but our Sally might be able to get it in the optics app if you ask her nice.
Please, Sally. Please, Sally.
I'm actually working on it behind the scenes.
Hey, all right.
That'll be a great tool. So your driver's right there in the optics app. He's got the addresses. He or she's got the addresses right in front of them. Boom. There'll be no more, there'll still be excuses, but there'll be no more valid excuses. We appreciate everybody's time. Remember, you've got the holiday coming up on Monday. Please plan for absenteeism the day before and the day after. Remind your employees, if you pay holidays, they normally don't get paid if they miss the day before and the day after a holiday, but do plan for absenteeism. Plan for early closures on Fridays. So know what your customers are doing out there. And as I said, plan for absenteeism, use it a chance to make some money. But everybody, we don't talk to you before then. Please have a safe and profitable week, and please enjoy your Memorial Day holiday. And Robert, I got you for the last one for the observation ride form. All right. We'll see everybody next week. Take care. Bye-bye.